everyone, from the Matt Morris Digital Studio here in Fresno with the sports director of KC24 and CBS47, Scott Bemis. I am Dean Shiro. Scotty, we come to another Thursday, but this is an important one. We finally finished our August contest, and I want to personally thank Sonny Dykes and the TCU Horned Frogs for helping me get to that number. There it is, 1331.08. I needed all that help to get there. Just to refresh everyone, we start with $1,000 each month, fictitious money, and Scotty and I kind of put it on all our different parlays and stuff and regular straight bets. Scotty finished with $1282.50, nothing to be ashamed of. Hey, listen, you said you wanted both of us to be over $1,000 bucks.
I'm proud of us.
I'm super proud of us. I am super proud of us.
This was a good month, and I think it's coinciding here with the start of football season. I think is one of the keys here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you are a very good college football handicapper.
Oh.
I mean, you've been in some pools in recent years, and you are consistently up there near the top. So you know. Dean knows what he's talking about when it comes to college football.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott. And like I said, it's been a hell of a run. We've had a lot of fun with it, and we're going to keep going. We got more plays for everyone. We want to start really quick with, obviously, our home team here, Fresno State. They're getting ready to head to Corvallis, Oregon to play the Oregon State Beavers, who come off a 31-15 loss to Cal. That freshman quarterback looked pretty good. What are your thoughts on Fresno State going up there to play in a tough environment?
You're talking about the Cal freshman quarterback look good is what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm backtracking
against Oregon State, right?
But what are your thoughts on E.J. Warner now going up there and the running game?
Well, you know, this is going to be a great test. This is going to be a great litmus test for Fresno State and where they're at right now, you know, with regards to Matt Entz. 2 games in, you know, that's enough now. That's enough of game action to kind of be ready and to really, you know, have a good idea of what Fresno State's bringing to the table. We've seen one performance that didn't look so good. We've seen one performance that looked great. Of course, on the last show, I talked about that there's some signs that this could really be working based on how Fresno State looked against Georgia Southern. The way that they won, not just that they, you know, blew out an opponent who's, you know, a peer group opponent, kind of on the same level they are, at least conference-wise and all that stuff, a team that won 8 games last year, Georgia Southern, but how they did it. The fact that Fresno State just dominated that game in the second half physically. Like, I have not seen that since I came to Fresno in 2014.
Agreed.
I'm all the old school people, obviously, you know, with Pat Hill, you know, the Ryan Matthews era, Robbie Rouse era, stuff like that, right? I mean, it's been a part of Fresno State football in the past, going back to Jim Sweeney, you know, with you know, Ron Rivers and you know, Lorenzo Neal and all those guys, you know, going back. Bunch of great running backs to come through there, and that physical brand of football looks to be back at Fresno State. And if they can replicate what they did against Georgia Southern, maybe not to that degree because they're going to be on the road at a Pac-12 opponent, a future conference rival,
right,
by the way. But if they can, you know, say they rush for 150 yards in the game, and it sets up E.J. Warner, and E.J. Warner has a solid game, maybe throws for, you know, between 200 and 250. You know, I think that could be enough for Fresno State to get a win. If they can go on the road, beat an opponent like Oregon State, I think it sends a message to the Valley that they've got the right guy in there in Matt Entz.
I guess my question to you, though, Scott, though, is are we going to see more of the first half, do you think, of Fresno State when they go up there on the road, or are we going to see more of the second half?
I think we'll see. I mean, you got to adjust according to how things are playing out, right? As well. I mean, the ideal scenario for this Fresno State team, I think, is to get a lead, right? To get a lead and you know, to start pounding the rock with Donaldson and Rayshawn Luke and those guys, and then let that set up the play action pass. You know, I still think this team is going to take some shots, you know, from time to time going deep. You got Josiah Freeman out there. He's an experienced receiver. We've seen Ezekiel Avit, who I believe is a Maryland transfer.
Right.
He's been kind of emerging here in these first 2 games. You see, you know, why he went to a Big Ten program, you know, out of high school.
Right.
And so, you know, first play of the game, they tried to go deep. They tried to, you know, go over the top.
They did.
On
it was
Georgia
close,
Southern.
too.
Yeah, you know, it looked like he had a step on him, you know, perfectly thrown ball. Maybe that's a completion. I think Avit kind of misjudged it a little bit in the air as well. But this is kind of a fun game because it kind of gives you a little preview of what's to come, right? You know, new environment that Fresno State's going to be playing a lot in, you know, going forward up in Corvallis. They renovated their stadium, right, over the last few years. It's a brand new facility, kind of like they had at Kansas. In fact, Oregon State's is completely done. It's not just halfway done like Kansas's is. Oregon State's going to be chomping at the bit a little bit. They're coming off an opening loss, like you mentioned. They got some talent on that team.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy, he's an interesting story, Dean. I mean, this guy led Duke, I think, to 9 wins last year. He started his college career at Texas, the quarterback.
Right.
But Duke decided to go in a different direction, right? And they brought in another transfer quarterback, and Malik ends up at Oregon State. So, I mean, this is a guy who started his career at Texas, started for a year at Duke. So it's another quality quarterback that Fresno State is going up against.
I got one more question for you really quick. So, I mean, obviously, E.J. Warner's still looking for his first passing touchdown of the season. His decision-making, has been kind of suspect so far through 2 games. Do you see him maybe finally emerging through, some struggles, we'll just say?
I think with EJ, it's more of I think he's adjusting to kind of a new level of talent around him, right? And working his way with the offense as it exists right now. I talked a little bit about him with the other reporters at practice on Tuesday about, when he was playing at Temple and Rice, they went 3-9 both those seasons, right? Which means they were playing from behind all the time, right? And so he's trying to play catch up probably on those clubs all the time, throwing it around the yard, maybe taking a few more chances. He did that in the first game against Kansas. The 2 decisions against Georgia Southern, he wants back, no doubt about it. I don't blame him so much for the 1 interception that he had at Kansas, and then the second one wasn't even his fault. It was a ball that went in and out of the hands of the receiver. And then he got a little loose with the football on a sack as well. But they were down big time in that game. He was trying to make something happen. These 2 interceptions against Georgia Southern were a whole different story because they were first down at that point, right? And the first one especially, when he kind of tried to force it into coverage when he could have easily thrown the ball away. The second one was just taking a chance. Josiah Freeman, one-on-one, throw it up for his big receiver. No problem with that whatsoever, except the ball was not placed where it needed to be. It was too far inside. It gave the DB a chance to make a move on it. So I think EJ's going to come around with the help of the coaching staff, and I think he's already realizing it with the way that the running game performed, that I don't need to win this game with my right arm, like I had to do at Temple and Rice.
Sure.
And so I don't need to take these chances, right? If we've got the running game going. And so I think you'll see more of that, but there are signs that E.J. Warner can be a quality quarterback. I mean, he was 20-27 in that game against Georgia Southern. That's efficient.
It's efficient, absolutely. So let's get into a little bit more on this Pac-12 thing. We're going to come in hot now. All right, Scotty. So, like I said, we got Fresno State, Oregon State this weekend, a new future Pac-12 rivalry kind of building. I think the question really we need to ask is, do you think that this new conference with these 8 teams, and then you're adding Gonzaga for basketball, do you think it can become like, a power conference, I guess is the question. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so, at this point at least. Some of these schools would have to make a big leap forward. I know that's the hope, is that with Boise State, Washington State, Oregon State, Fresno State, San Diego State, even Colorado State, Utah State, teams that have had moments where they've been pretty darn good at football.
Yeah.
They're hoping that at some point they could kind of classify themselves as a Power 5 conference, maybe be that 5th Power 5 conference. And while that's an awesome goal to try to get to, I just don't think it's realistic at this point for them to consider that. I almost look at this collection of teams, the 8 football teams that exist, and you throw, Texas State in there as well, right? As kind of an in-between conference, right? It's almost like a Mountain West and American plus, kind of like an A plus, that you've got the best of some of the Mountain West, and you add in a couple of the, maybe the historically at least bottom feeders in the Pac-12. You create this new conference, and you've kind of got an in-between conference. And so I think certainly, obviously, you would love to strive for Power 5 classification, but I just don't think that's going to happen down the road. But I think this conference could get to a point where, they, with hopefully more TV money coming in, right, than it exists right now in the Mountain West Conference, that you can kind of establish yourself as the premier Group of 5 conference, right? Or be like kind of the in-between conference. And as long as that playoff bid exists for the Group of 5, top Group of 5 ranked team, you could consistently get a team from this new collection of Pac-12 teams into the playoff. Okay.
One other question, though, on that, basically, though. Do you think that the Mountain West keeping some of their teams, retaining like the UNLVs, kind of maybe hurt that theory a little bit of maybe establishing a little bit more power? Or do you think that it really didn't have any weight at all on your decision?
It doesn't really weigh in that much because other than UNLV, I don't think there's really any of those schools that would make a big difference as far as the national perception, of this conference. Sure. I think this was tough for the Fresno States and the Boise States and San Diego States to kind of go through this process where you kind of have to turn your back, on partners that you've had for a while in the Mountain West Conference. But I think they realized, right, that unfortunately, the San Jose States and the Nevadas, even New Mexico when it comes to football, obviously basketball, they have more of a tradition there, right? That, Mountain West is still a good conference. It's better than, say, I don't know, like the old school, the Big Sky or something like that, right, at the FCS level.
Yeah.
But, you kind of had to pick and choose. Now, in basketball, I think they could really have something here. Maybe even if they add one more team at some point or two more teams, if they grab, a St. Mary's, or something like that as well.
Yeah.
Then you have something brewing there with regards to a basketball conference, right? With, the likes of Gonzaga and San Diego State, right?
Yeah.
Utah State, Colorado State, those teams. Boise's had a nice run. I mean, Fresno State's going to need to up the ante there, right?
No question.
To compete in that conference. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to bring a little bit more money in, to these programs. And
Sure.
I think the goal should be to be the premier Group of 5 program, basically.
Okay. Yeah, fair
Or
enough.
conference, excuse me.
Yeah, no, I get it. Absolutely. So I want to get to another topic. So we had a little scuffle breakout last night in the Colorado San Francisco Giants game. It was after a home run celebration. Here's a little closer picture. So Mr. Freeland did not like the celebration, and it kind of got into, there was ejections. So I guess the question to you, like I said, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Are these celebrations getting kind of out of hand now with the crowns and the tridents and the, you name it?
Well, my take on this, and I heard Joe Madden on MLB Network this morning, and he's really good on television, by the way. Joe Madden, he's always been good with the media, and he's kind of serving in an analyst role for their morning show. And he was talking about, he had no problem with what Freeland did, in this game, because in his opinion, it's getting out of hand. Not necessarily the celebrations, like the spontaneous celebration after you hit a home run. That's fine, in his opinion. But when these guys go into the dugout and you've got the jacket and you've got the trident, not like you're talking about.
The trident,
yeah,
my favorite.
The trident.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like every team has something right now. And some of it's kind of fun. I'll be honest, every now and then it's kind of fun to see them do it. Maybe once, right? But it's like the fact that it happens every single time that they put the jacket on the Blue Jay, or they put the helmet on the Angel guy or whatever it is. And I don't know. I mean, like at some point, these pitchers are going to kind of, get frustrated. Now, we're talking about a Rockies pitcher here, right? They're having a tough year.
Right.
And so Freeland is a little bit notorious, apparently, for, being a little bit of a short fuse, right? And so he didn't react very well. Devers, obviously, we've seen a little bit of this from Devers in the past.
We have.
As well. But I guess my take is maybe it is time to kind of maybe curb some of these home run celebrations every single time, right? That we do it. Spontaneously, every once in a while, maybe something funny happens. Great, but is it gotten a little too far with all these celebrations? What do you think?
I agree with you. I think it's just too much, and it's going to drive more issues like this, where tempers are going to flare, and then these umpires have to deal with this kind of situation compared to just calling balls and strikes and making sure we get that all right and stuff like that. So I completely agree with you on that. I just think the pageantry of it is sometimes fun, but I think it's kind of getting out of hand. I do agree.
So. I will say this. Baseball, this is a game between the Giants and the Rockies.
Right.
In early September, right? I mean, the Giants are sort of on the fringe of playoff contention. I don't know where they've found themselves with this recent, run of good play that they've found. I thought they were dead and done, basically. But you do like to see emotion like this in a baseball game, right? Like so I don't have a hugest issue with this. I do have a problem with guys throwing at guys intentionally.
Yes.
Right? Because
trying to physically injure them.
Yeah, trying to physically injure. I mean, you're throwing a ball 100 miles an hour. I mean, you could in theory end somebody's life, if you hit him in the wrong spot, right?
Absolutely.
But some kind of stuff like this, showing emotion, this and that, a little John back and forth, right? I think can add to things as long as it doesn't get out of hand, obviously, you know, and you don't want anybody to get hurt, right?
Yeah,
and so,
of course not.
And you see how much guys care, by the way. Then, you know, you see Matt Chapman run out there and he's pushing Freeland, you know, before Freeland even ever does anything to him. You know, Adames was yapping away, right?
Got
you know,
bounced too. Those two both got bounced.
It kind of had a feeling that like the Giants were kind of showing their support for Rafael Devers, right? You know, that he's taken a little bit of heat, I think, you know, from the
hasn't got off to the best
from the
start.
press there in the Bay Area, and just kind of the fans that, hey, we made this big blockbuster trade and it hasn't really, you know, developed yet.
True.
But I still think Devers is going to hit, you know, like at some point consistently. I just that long-term contract, I think I don't know if I would take that on, but in the short term, in the next 3 to 5 years, I think Devers is going to give you 30 homers, 100 RBIs around that consistently.
Well, we'll see what Buster Posey does there. I've got one more I want to point out.
Good, I like it, Dean.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Amanda Anasimova, did I say that right?
Anasimova,
thank you. Okay, that's why I got my tennis guy here. This is her crying after Wimbledon when she lost to Iga Swiatek. 6-love.
Swiatek.
Thank you. See, there you go. That's why I got my guy here. I can't do it by myself. But today we have a different picture. She got her, we'll call revenge tour. The revenge tour officially started. Congratulations to Amanda.
Good job, Amanda.
I mean, honestly, a huge win at the United States Open. What are they in the quarters now?
This was a quarterfinal today.
Win.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, look at the difference, guys. I mean, just she was devastated, to be embarrassed like that. It was in a final, and Scott and I talked about this on the show. She had nothing to be ashamed of. She was in the final of Wimbledon, and she caught a hot player, basically. But today, she got her, this week she got her justification. I just want to point out, congratulations. It's just about perseverance, right?
The funny thing was, she had given Swiatek all kinds of problems before that, in their previous meetings.
You had mentioned that.
Yeah, she had been very competitive. I think beat her a few times too. Might even have had a winning record against Swiatek, which is rare in the women's game for someone to have a winning record against Iga. But yeah, that just shows. I mean, she is mentally tough, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about her background. She kind of went through burnout, with tennis. Super talented player.
Super talented.
And she's come all the way back. And I think she's playing with a bunch of joy now. And the way she handled that with the speech at Wimbledon, we talked about it, that it just very classy, right? Very classy. And even today, like the match point was a net cord, which means it hits the net, and it's in tennis, you're supposed to apologize for.
We've heard about that already.
For a net cord.
Yes.
But she was like almost like, sorry, like and was almost embarrassed by the way that finished, right? But great job by her.
Kudos to Swiatek too. She was very gracious as well. Obviously, she knew the situation. She knew the room. She knew the temperature.
Yeah, and here we go, Dean. You got two Americans in the semis on the women's side. Yeah, unfortunately, Taylor Fritz went out.
On the men's side.
Yeah. Men's side still waiting. It's going
to be exciting though. So. Let's get into it really quick. We got one NFL game that we need to just kind of mention really quick. So tonight, you've got the Eagles hosting the Dallas Cowboys, first NFL regular season game of the year. The Eagles will be unfurling their Super Bowl championship banner, but Scotty's got a little tip here. What's going on? What did we learn?
I was reading a little preview about this game, and sometimes teams have a little hangover from the ring ceremony in their opener or the banner unveiling, and the Eagles say, nope, we're not going out on the field for the banner unveiling.
Okay.
So they're almost taking it as like a business-like approach, right? CeeDee Lamb, meantime, for the Cowboys says he's going to be out there because he wants to use it as motivation.
Okay.
To see, basically have to watch somebody celebrate, right? In front of him as motivation. And so that's going to be an interesting matchup, obviously, with the Cowboys and the Eagles there. Divisional rival, opening week, right? Thursday night football, NFL opener. Right. Everybody's going to be watching the whole Micah Parsons thing.
Sure.
Leaving Dallas.
Right.
Remember when I told you, though, that with the Red Sox, when they traded Devers, how not that Micah Parsons is on the same level, or as far as with Rafael Devers.
Sure.
I don't want to say that Micah Parsons was incredibly disliked by the Cowboys or anything. I don't know any of that, right? And I don't even think the Red Sox maybe dislike Rafael Devers, but it was a huge distraction going on, right?
Okay, yeah.
Teammates had to answer questions about it constantly, right? And I said on this show, hey, don't be surprised if the Red Sox go on a little bit of run here. And what have the Red Sox done? Because it kind of frees everybody up. Right. It's almost like addition by subtraction in a weird way, at least in the short term.
Okay.
Long term, yes, you're going to miss Michael Parsons, but I feel like the Cowboys are going to want to kind of prove, right, something here,
Scotty and I have some plays on this. We're actually going to go to war over this game a little bit, but before we get there, let's get to our NFC East preview. It's the last one we got to do. So there are your odds. Obviously, the defending champion Eagles -145, the Washington Commanders at +200, the Dallas Cowboys at +850, and the New York Giants at +1800. I just want to point out a couple schedule things really quick. I mean, honestly, the interesting thing about Philly and Washington is they will play 2 out of the last 3 games. They will not face each other until the last 3 weeks of the season. They'll play each other twice. The New York Giants have a brutal schedule. It's at Washington. They have Kansas City. They have the Chargers coming in. They have Philly coming in. They have to go to Denver. Then obviously they have to go to Philly. They have San Francisco coming in, Green Bay, at Detroit. So just a really tough stretch for the Giants. Obviously they have their backs against the wall anyway too, with a rookie quarterback as well. So Dallas, not a horribly difficult schedule, but they start obviously at Philly tonight, and then they've got Green Bay, they've got at Denver, they have Kansas City on Thanksgiving, at Detroit, and then they host the Chargers in December. That's pretty much what I really kind of have. Obviously we know the personnel. Jalen Hurts, obviously for the Eagles, you've got the Redskins now with their situation, great quarterback, a really good offense and an established coaching staff. So what are your thoughts really quick on the NFC East?
I think the Eagles obviously deserve to be the favorite. It'll be interesting to see what Jaden Daniels does in year 2. Mm-hmm. We saw a little bit of a regression from, C.J. Stroud with Houston. I don't know if that's going to happen to Jaden Daniels, but it'll be interesting to see. I think long-term, Jaden Daniels is going to be a great quarterback, and he may even still progress this year, right? With the Commanders, just building off of last year. The Eagles obviously deserve to be the favorite, but I don't think I could lay 145 with the Eagles.
I agree. What's your best bet out of those? What do you like?
Gosh, I tell you, I feel like you're going to laugh at me, but I'm going to say the Cowboys, I think.
Okay.
At +850. I just think when you're getting up to those kind of odds right there at +850.
Okay.
I mean, obviously I don't think they're going to win the division, but you still got Dak Prescott. You still got CeeDee Lamb, right? They've had their main problem has been rush defense, right? With the Cowboys, you know. The guy you got in the Micah Parsons trade, Kenny Clark, should help.
Great player.
Should help there. So I mean, I probably wouldn't make a bet on this division just because I think there's a lot of uncertainty in this division with those top 3 teams that are listed there, especially the top 2.
Right.
I would kind of have to wait and see with the Commanders.
I understand.
Can they kind of keep it going? The Giants, I don't know what's going on with the NFL schedule makers, but they have like the toughest schedule in the NFL for some reason.
It's brutal. I mean, back-to-back games of Kansas City, Chargers, and then Philly and at Denver, like boom, 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 boom.
The funny thing about the Giants is they've actually been building some defensive pieces there that if they could ever find it offensively, I don't think it would be enough to win the division.
Don't they still have the kid Thibodeau from Oregon?
And then they got what's his is it Abdul Carter there too?
From Penn State last year
as well. They've been kind of building through the draft with some serious defensive playmakers.
They have.
You got Russell Wilson there. He's going to start the season as a starter. You mentioned Jackson Dart kind of hanging in the wings. Do you think Jackson Dart ends up being the starter by the end of the year?
Well, like I said, I think you're right. Russell Wilson will start the year. My apologies there, but I think Dart will get time. I do.
Okay.
I mean, I really do.
Yeah, there's apparently like a betting odds on that it's like week 8 is like the over-under where they say, will Jackson Dart start a game before week 8?
Wilson will start week 1.
Yeah. I mean, look, just keep this in mind. Just 2 years ago, the Eagles were bounced in the wild card round. I think they finished the season horrendously, right? Yep. So things could change dramatically from one year to the next in the NFL. On paper, at least, you'd think they would be able to keep it going.
Right.
I think the Cowboys and Eagles are some crazy stat where either one of those teams has won the division title over like the last 9 years, right? So I think the Cowboys with Dak Prescott at quarterback, sure. He's a guy that Cowboy fans love to give a hard time to and say, hey, he hasn't won us a Super Bowl.
Sure.
But this Cowboy team with him has won, gotten to the playoffs and been in the mix, right? So I don't know. It just feels like +850 from a best bet perspective. Seems like it might be worth a dart throw on that.
Okay. All right. I like the Commanders at +200. I would not put huge money on it by any stretch. And with that said, on money, let's get into our money plays. All right, Scotty, here we go. We are starting September, fast and furious, my friends. So here was what we've got. We covered on Monday the first 5 on the list, but Scotty has got 6 more plays. Go for it.
I'm firing away, Dean, just because you want plays from me. I'm going to give you plays.
I love it.
I'm going to take the Cowboys, Dean. Let's go, Cowboys!
Oh, boy,
How about them boys? Plus 8.5. That feels like that number's gotten a little out of hand, to be honest with you. I mean, if it was under a touchdown, I wouldn't touch it. I just think that first game division rival, right? If you look at the numbers over the years, division rivals, especially division underdogs at home in week 1. Now, this is on the road, I know, so it doesn't totally apply to this.
Right.
But I would also maybe look Cowboys first half in this game as well, but I'm going to take them at over a touchdown, plus 8.5. I think there's going to be kind of a we want to prove to the world that we're more than Micah Parsons type of mentality. All right, in the college game, San Diego State, Washington State here. Notice above, I do have San Diego State plus 1.5 in this game.
So we're doubling up.
Wazoo looked pretty horrendous.
They did.
In week 1, I think they had 3 yards rushing against Idaho.
Right.
I think the San Diego State defense returns a lot this year. They shut out Stony Brook. It's an FCS school, but they held them to under 100 total yards, Dean. And Stony Brook won 8 games in the FCS ranks last year. So their defense is obviously pretty solid. Their offense is always a problem, it seems like, with San Diego State, and so especially going on the road to play a former Power 4 school. I think that's going to stay under 45.5. I'm going to take Mississippi State plus 6.5 here. This was at 7 earlier in the week. I liked it a lot more at 7, but all I could get right now is 6.5.
Fair enough.
Arizona State going into Mississippi State there. That's going to be a tough trip. I like ASU, but there's some new pieces there. They lost Scadaboo, from last year, right? Mississippi State, they've got Blake Shapen back at quarterback. You're still going into SEC country, and you're getting nearly a touchdown. I'm going to ride with the Bulldogs. Iowa State minus 3. Iowa State just seems to get... Everybody likes to hate on Iowa State for some reason. Iowa's offense still sucks, let's be honest, right? Iowa State has shown in the first couple of weeks they can score, right? They've got an experienced quarterback. The game's at Iowa State. Usually this is a low-scoring battle in this rivalry series, but I just got to lay 3 there. I'm taking the Cyclones. Seahawks. This goes back to the division rival thing. I'm going to buy that up to 3.5, get more than a field goal. They're hosting the Niners. Underdog division rival here. I'm gonna ride with the Seahawks.
Got a playoff prop,
and then I got a player prop here. JJ McCarthy. It's a Monday night game against the Bears.
No, I think it's on. That's a Monday night. It is a Monday night game. You're right.
All right. So JJ McCarthy making his first start ever, right, against the Bears here. JJ McCarthy can move a little bit with his feet. I don't know if it's all going to be working through the air, but especially in like a first game scenario like this, I will expect him to be a little more conservative with the ball.
15 plus rushing yards.
Which means I feel like he's going to tuck it under and run a few times.
Got it.
He only's got to get over 15 to get this, and so I'm taking that.
Here's what I got. Here's what I did over on Monday. I'm up to 1078.78. My U.S. Open tennis play. Sabalenka didn't play, so Scotty and I worked out a number. I ended up winning 63 instead of 87. My 2 WNBAs both hit, so that was cool. This week, a little fight with Scotty. I'll take the Eagles minus 8.5 at home against Dallas. I've got the Valkyries, giving 9.5 at home against the Dallas Wings. I got a bunch of college and a couple pro parlays in there. I'll let you guys kind of look at them because we're running out of time. And then on my prize picks, give me Novak Djokovic tomorrow, or on, I think it's on Friday, he plays. Over what is that? 6.5 aces, I believe it is. I'm trying to read the number.
6.5 aces.
Yep. And then Sabalenka, under 20.5, 21.5 total games against Jessica Pegula. Is that right?
Pegula, yeah. There you go.
And then Miller Moss, the former USC quarterback. Now he's with Louisville, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and Arch Manning over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Scotty, any last words before we got to go?
I counted them up. Right there, number 5 on that list was an 8-team moneyline parlay. The moneyline master trying to strike again. And I got to start playing your WNBA picks because you've been money on the WNBA.
I'm trying. Listen, we'll be back on Monday. On behalf of Scott, I'm Dean. This has been the Beem and Dean Show.